What is the greatest obstacle you've had to overcome, and how did you overcome it?
Oh, you do just get straight into it, don't you? Look, well, first of all, I'm just impressed. I'm very impressed with this series so far. I'm just truly honoured to be a part of it. I think I actually got quite nervous before we started today, and I was like, oh, this doesn't normally happen for me. But I've just watched so many of these so far that I went, you're actually doing a phenomenal job, and the women that you're bringing on, and the men too, are just such high caliber of people with such massive visions or such adversity or things that they've overcome. And I'm just really thrilled to be here and nervous. Now, what was the question? The question you asked me, what is my biggest hurdle that I've had to overcome? Oh, giving up being a control freak. I would.
Because I'm the same.
Oh, you can hear me? You can feel me?
Yeah, I can feel you. Yeah.
You know, a lot of my background, and you have to excuse me, it's really hot. It's like I've got no aircon on and it's like 34 degrees sitting here in my office, and I'm just like, whew. But yeah, I think as women, we have a lot that we do. We're always up to things, whether it be work or whether it be kids or whether it be just dealing with the perceptions of ourselves and what we think we should be doing, and whether there's guilt attached or not, or what and whatever. And I think with everything that I've been up to in running a traditional business and having kids, and then having one of my sons was unwell for quite a period of time and things like that, I had to give up this impression or idea or notion that things should look a particular way, or that they should be dealt with a particular way, and actually just go, you know what? I'm going to need to come up with some new ways to deal with things, and I'm going to actually have to look at letting go. And I can't be the savior and the one to do everything and fix everything, because and whilst I can be the delegator and I can be the instigator, I can't physically do all of the things. It just doesn't work for me anymore. So I guess that's one of the biggest hurdles, and you probably hear that a lot from me, is there's been a lot of ways where I've actually just gone, you know what, I'm not doing that anymore, and what's going to take to find someone else or some other way to do that.
Experience, like I have a problem with micromanaging, but then my cup gets depleted as a result of that. Like I am exhausted, and therefore I can't give the love to my children and then to my partner, and even to the love of what I do. I'm just so depleted of that fact. And it really is about that ease of letting go and trusting the process, but to trusting other people with the delegation of what you're assigning to them as well.
Yeah, well, if I look at I'll just share this as a bit of a backstory, just for some context with people. But earlier this year, my youngest son got quite unwell, and by quite unwell meaning he had a condition that actually required me to stop working, like literally overnight. Like one moment we had this structure set up where my eldest went to school and my youngest could go into daycare during the days, and I had a gym business, and I could go and I could run that business. And I literally was the manager, was the general manager, cooked it all up. And then the next minute, overnight, I was told, no, your son can't go into daycare. You need to stay at home with him. It was quite a fragile nature, his condition. And I was like, oh my goodness. And we have no family here. We live in a regional area. And just literally overnight, I had to stop working. And for me, I think if you're going to leave the company that you're managing and running, normally you would probably know a few months in advance, and you would set up systems and you would set up structures and you would train staff and do all these things in view of you going to be stepping out of that role, such that everything was well supported. And for me, I just didn't have that. It literally was like, you're in and then you're out. And then the next minute I was 600 kilometers away from my business. So I literally had to take everything online or everything to the phone, and I just really wasn't available anymore. And I had to just go, whilst I think things should look this particular way and I should be structuring everything a certain way, I had to go, that's not what's happening right here, and I need to just deal with what's so, and actually just deal, really. So it was it was an interesting time where I actually took on a coach. I had a really phenomenal coach that I took on, I guess, and she's remote. She was living overseas in Bali. And I actually just did a weekly call with her and just set up an accountability structure. because what I've known is that because I was always able to do all the things and do all the tasks, and I was quite a competent human, I all of a sudden went from feeling very confident, competent, and up to things in the world, I went into this space of where I felt very uneasy, uncertain. I felt incompetent. I felt tired from being up all night in hospitals. And I just felt all of a sudden like I felt like I'd just given birth to a newborn baby. You know, that moment as mums where you just go, I can't cope and I'm not mentally available. So I went from being this confident, competent woman to literally mentally unavailable. And then I was like, oh my God, I am literally going to have to empower others and give up all sense of control to allow people to really step into their own power and also contribute to me. I had to learn to accept a lot of help. And I had to give a lot of people a lot of responsibility. And inside of doing that, I learned a ton about, you know, one is people love to contribute. People love to contribute. And the fact that, you know, like one time I literally left in the night and my eldest son didn't know. And I just was like, okay, there'll be someone coming to sleep over that he knew and was trusted, but he was going to have to wake up in the morning I'd already flown out RFDS and was in Perth for 5 days, and he had to go stay with somebody we knew. So I had to just literally do things that were so out of sorts for me because I would like to prepare and plan and do all these things. So yeah, I went to doing these crazy things and then having to deal with how I felt about that. And people really got to get themselves inside of all that. They got to contribute. I got to experience how much people love me and love our family and want to help. And I also got to learn a lot about where my ability to do so many things was actually keeping other people quite small. I found that because I was so confident and was so competent in all these things that I was doing for so long, I had just taken care of it, but it kept other people that maybe could have had a lot more responsibility or could have stepped up and do a lot more things. Not that they weren't competent. It's just that I hadn't created that opportunity, or they felt like I didn't think that they could do it. So I actually was like, whew, and I actually got to, I guess, kind of crack the surface and lift the lid off that and allow other people to have that opportunity. Because I was like, I'm not available. You choose. Like, you make the decision now. Like, what do you think is going to be the best way forward? Yes, we'll just go with that, rather than me, you know, micromanaging things or giving them my 10 different opinions about the way things should or shouldn't or could or couldn't go. It was it's been the most incredibly rewarding and discombobulating year of my life. Really. Yeah, it's been wild.
I love that you put it the right metaphor, because when you were talking about it, it made me think of the newborn stage with my son. You just have to throw your hands up, and I really love the fact that you brought up how people got to how can I say it? Like, I can explain my mum. My mum loves to give to other people, but she doesn't like receiving, and she likes to give because she likes the feeling behind making other people feel good by what she gives. But the reality is, if you don't allow people to give you something in return, so if you don't receive, you don't allow people to have that same experience. And it's powerful to hear that you throwing your hands up and surrendering enables other people to experience and give back. Because I suspect, Willow, you're always giving in your role, one as a mother, you know, in your job with your online business, as well as the business that you run through your gym. You're always giving. And I suspect there must have been that liberation too, that I like how you say, and this is something I want to talk about, life gives you not what you want, but what you need. Is that how I've said it completely right? Like,
absolutely. Absolutely. It got me to see that I had created this kind of gap between me and them. And it wasn't like, I don't want you near me. It was just kind of like, here's all the things that I'm responsible for. And everyone can kind of come up to this level, but I carry the torch and I carry everything forward. And I got to see that that's not where I want to be. And look, and it was an internal struggle for the longest time. I think for that 6 to 8 months, there was this massive pull of, you know, oh, can you still hear me there?
Are you there?
Yes.
Yep, I've got you. You got caught at You went like
No.
Yeah,
I guess there was lots of different things that all of that brought up because, yeah, I had that gap between where I was and where people could get to, and now they could get like all the way up and in the door, and I had to just kind of allow myself to be vulnerable. I had to allow myself to let go of these feelings of guilt when people contribute things to me, because I, like you said, like if you're someone that's up to a lot of stuff, you just give, and you don't really want a lot of stuff in return. And in fact, often it can be uncomfortable to accept things in return. Um, I also had to let go of, or actually come face to face with as well, in my personal relationships, in my partnership, in my family unit, and things like that, where I had to say, I'm not available for that. You need to take care of that yourself, whether it be with my partner or my eldest son or things like that, where they'd gotten so used to mum just doing everything. That there was initially that little bit of resistance too that I had to deal with. But at the end of the day, and this is what you said around like giving to others, I really firmly believe that if you can give enough people what they want, you'll get what you want in life. It's just the way, and that's what I see. If you look at the most successful people and the biggest philanthropists and just these people that are changing the world, they're of a giving heart, and they're of a giving nature, and they love doing things for other people. So I'm really loving stepping into that role in empowering leaders. I'm loving stepping into that role in a lot of the advice or the coaching that I give online. And I'm loving stepping into the receiving role of it too. Sometimes it's uncomfortable, but I just sort of like go, okay, cool, and then I'll let that go and just roll with it.
that because somebody's journey I love and I've been to his seminars is Tony Robbins. And if people don't know about
Yes.
Tony Robbins' story, is that his whole drive behind his whole business is feeding the millions in America, because the fact is when he was a teenager, people turned up to his doorstep and gave his family food when he didn't have food in the house. And that's his drive behind his whole company. And it's like, if people believe in the law of success and the law of abundance and attraction, it doesn't matter if you give in some area of your life, like you give, it might be in regards to your career, but you're not getting that back. It's always coming in another avenue as well. You always get back what you're given.
Absolutely. And something that you just said before around, oh yeah, like in life that you're given what you need, not what you want. And I think like it was just like I don't claim to come from some really kind of adverse background, or where I've overcome childhood trauma, or these things where I think, gosh, how do people survive those things? I've had a really amazing life, and I've had phenomenal parents and upbringing and people that have really supported me. And we didn't have a very rich upbringing or anything like that, so I'm always really committed in life that I bring abundance and wealth into my space too. It's been a very big goal of mine. But I think you get the lessons that you need, and this is why I think a lot of people will often sit in that kind of struggle or that lack or feeling out of alignment, because the lessons come to them where it's time for them to step into that next bigger version of themselves, but they resist it rather than sort of taking that as the pathway. And that's something that's really important to me, is when you said you're given what you need. What I needed after being in the fitness industry, I'm 36, I've been in the fitness industry since I was 15, so this is 21 years. And I'm bred, I am, brought up and bred in the fitness, I mean, in a gym, do you know what I mean? So I think I knew it as what I would always be doing, but that was a 15-year-old girl that made that decision. And I love where it's taken me and the incredible accolades and awards that we've won, or what we've grown and how we've changed the community and things like that. But I also got to see that inside of taking myself out of it, that I was still trapped in a decision that I made at 15. And all I know is that I still want to help people. I really want to help people, but it might not look like me having to be the one to deliver the fitness or deliver the conversation that gets someone started in fitness to transform their life. I can now start to look at having been pulled out of that situation and having to deal with myself, I can now start to go like, what am I truly passionate about, and where else would I like to help people transform their lives? And whether that be financially or whether that be spiritually, or just like mostly I like having people transform where they're struggling. And that might be in any of the different, realms. It can be anything, whether it's finances, whether it be fitness, whether it be relationships, communication, any of that stuff. Like, that's what I'm passionate about. So I still have my fitness business, but I have it set up and managed passionately by people that are currently choosing the fitness industry. And I get to, be at home and be a mum, and at 36 reevaluate, like, where do I want my life to go? But if you'd told me that 6 months ago, when I was right in the thick of having to deal with managing myself out of that, I was like this animal in like the last throes of death. Like, they say before an animal dies, it has this one last struggle to survive. And that was kind of me. It was like this 6 months of like messiness and ugliness and getting through the ditch and the swamp to kind of be this butterfly at the back end.
I love that you brought up too that you're giving permission to change and gravitate from what you made a decision at 15. Because there's something I did today. I was doing yin yoga, and in those poses, you really have to think. You get uncomfortable and you think. And I realized I studied and lived in America and wanted to be an actor. And I went to an audition last night, and I don't love acting anymore. I was like, and that was a big pull. And like, how do I, and I'm glad we're having this conversation, because I'm like, well, how do I process that? Because now I work online and I find this, like, I love this process of what I'm doing with you here. But even you saying that's giving permission to other people that might be working as a teacher or a nurse or a doctor, or could be that they made a choice when they were 18. And we live in this day and age of technology where we don't have to stay in the same career. And I formerly was a teacher, and they used to talk about what was mind-blowing about teaching students today, that they're going to have, I think it was about 30 different careers in their lifetime. Yeah. Like, that's what they anticipate. Yeah. And it's so different. You think about our parents and our grandparents.
They would stay in one job for 30 years. Yeah.
Absolutely. And it's just liberating to hear that you made a choice at 15, but it's okay. You're going to something else and you have a lot of faith, and you've got to trust that process where life is giving.
And you don't have to be one thing in life. Like, you're not just a mum, or I'm not just a gym owner, or I'm not just, someone might not be just a personal trainer or just an accountant. Like, you can be a number of different things. Like, I actually went into the gym last Friday, and I toured and met with 4 clients and showed them around the gym and sat there and had heart to heart and discussed all their goals and where they'd failed in the past and where they really wanted to better themselves. And I signed them up to the gym, and then I went home. And I was like, you know what? When I was managing and running the gym, I would deal with like a broken piece of equipment or a rostering breakdown or some maintenance or some like sickness or a resignation, or like I would deal with all the aspects of the job that I didn't want to be dealing with all day long. But I knew it was my industry. But I was like, you know what? I'm stuck in an industry, but not doing what I'm passionate about too. So now I chose to step out of the running and the managing, and actually I've put in someone far more structured and competent. Turns out I wasn't the best one in the planet, right? But I now get to just still like dip my toe in there every now and then. Like I said, I'm not handing over all the leads, because I still want to meet with a few people and talk about fitness, because I love it. And I've done it for 20 years. But how fun is it now being able to, for me, it's 4:00 on I don't know what day it is, a Thursday. and I get to chat about, transforming life, or having a breakthrough, or being on someone's interview program, instead of, maybe today I'd be doing paperwork, and I go, I don't do paperwork anymore. I don't want it anymore. I want to do a number of different things and know myself as, the many hats. So it's cool.
Really important that we do that. It's that many hats, because you're making me reflect upon the fact that, like, when I was a teacher, I liked the interaction with people and talking to kids about what they want to do with their life, but I didn't like the logistics behind the scenes, and with the acting, it was also the interaction. And I like that you're saying, like, we can have many hats, and then we can also create some sort of career that, you know, that suits that and fits around what we love. Like right now, you know, my husband's out with my son doing stuff, but I get to go with my son and do the little things that he loves to do, you know, like, and I get to do the little things I love to do, like this and that, and anything's possible. Like you can create the life you want.
Yeah, it's true, because I this morning I just spent the morning at my son's sports school carnival, and I was like, that's super cool. And then yesterday, I literally called yesterday like pajama day, and I just spent with my youngest, and we just, you know, we did lots of laundry, and we, you know, played toys, and we did cartoons and just different stuff for the day. But for the Monday, Tuesday, I was in doing work in business, and then, you know, in the evenings I generally settle down to work online and things like that, because I, you know, one, obviously pulling myself out of my company and then replacing myself in there, I've had to now work on creating my own income from home and actually look at replacing my salary. So that's been, you know, an interesting time as well. But now that I've kind of like done that, I like that I can just go, okay, between these hours I'm going to do this, and between these hours I'm going to be this, and I just have like truly created a life that I'm really enjoying right now. And it was born from something quite harrowing and scary, you know, doing hospital stuff and all of that stuff, to like, oh my God, look at what came from that. And that was, I had to let go and just embrace that that was the direction that my life was going. And for once, instead of resisting it and trying to, and I, you know, I could have got an au pair, or I could have got nannies, or I could have done this or done that, and I was just like, stuff it, I'm not going to do that. Like, I'm just going to go with this and roll with the punches and try something new. And at the end of the day, that whole thing about giving myself permission, I really had to give myself permission, not only for me, but I had to get that other people will forgive me. To be 21 years in and choosing to stay at home with my 2-year-old, the internal experience for me was that everyone will think that I'm weak, or that I'm a cop-out, or that I'm a flake, or that I shouldn't be doing that because I'm a successful career woman. How dare I take time off to now go play mummy? Do you know what I mean? Like, that was my internal experience. And it took a lot of like I just had to keep saying to myself, like, no, people are going to know that this is important. People are going to agree with your decision. And I had to choose to honor what I was committed to versus my thoughts and my feelings about it. And that's a hard thing, because I really believe that most people are led by their thoughts and feelings, how I feel about something, versus here's what I say that I'm committed to, and that's what I'm doing now. And then all the crazy thoughts come up and you go, no, but I said I'm committed to this. That takes a lot of self-restraint, because you're going to feel a bit yucky pulling yourself through that mess.
Makes me think of you never feel like doing anything. Do you know, like in the beginning, like I even watch it with my son. My son never feels like brushing his teeth. Like I'm trying to teach a 22-month-old to brush his teeth, and he doesn't want to do it. He doesn't want to feel like it. But, you know, I consistently taught him, and my mum must have done the same with me. And I brush my teeth every morning and night. Like you never feel like initially doing anything, because it does.
It's habit and routine, and it's created.
Absolutely.
Created. Yeah.
Created. And that's the same as you see the people that are, like people think, and this is something I find really liberating about you, that you say, like everybody thinks somebody's an overnight success, but they don't see like the hurdles and the struggles and the input that they put into where they needed to be. They got up, and like it's, you know, if they're a marathon runner, they got up despite the fact that their head didn't feel like getting out of bed. They got out of bed. You know, like one of the big people I love talking about is Michael Jordan, is because Michael Jordan used to train for 3 hours every day, even if he didn't feel like it. And that's why he ended up making, well, he made, as an NBA player, $93 million, but he made $1.2 billion in product endorsements based on him doing 3 hours of practice every day as a teenager, leading up to that point. Just show up, you know, even though it's not there. And that's the success. There's no overnight success. It's everybody's been working behind the scenes.
Yeah, I really agree, and I can't say that I'm any different. Like, I look at my mentors and the people that inspire me, and one of the things that I'm really passionate about is public speaking and getting on stage. And like, I always knew that I wanted to be on the speaking circuit. And for me, I was like, I want to be on the speaking circuit. I want to be in, you know, in front of hundreds of people, thousands of people. I want to be delivering value. And it was funny because I assumed that it would be, fitness industry because that was what I knew. And I had this chat with someone just the other day, actually my manager in the fitness industry. And I said, you know what, it's not going to be about that. It's going to be about people like dealing with their BS and taking action in life. I said, because I said, I don't want to get up on, like, I will always speak on stage about people, you know, with health and fitness, and I would love to run seminars in the gym, and I'll always run our launches for different challenges and things. I love doing it. But I dabbled in a lot of personal development work, a lot. I did a lot, not dabbled, in a lot of personal development work. About 10 years ago, I really took myself on at this level and I went, look, there's a bunch of shit about me that just doesn't work. And I was committed to not experiencing some of the feelings I felt about myself, even though I was like perfectly put together and competent on the outside. That internal dialogue, that thoughts and that feelings that always ran for me was always there. And I was really committed to taking a lot of those negative self-talk or concerns that I had in the back of my mind, just completely to be able to silence those and put my commitments first. And so alongside having, you know, had a bit of exposure speaking on stages with the gym, I then have done a lot of this personal development style work. And then in this online business that we're in, the community itself is of such a transformative level in nature that I was like, holy shit, I just found my groove. Like I just found where I want to be. And it's like, and I hate to say things like called in my tribe or whatever, but I bloody called in my tribe. You know, I was like, damn it, I've had to say the hippie talk, you know? But but for me, I was like, I literally called in exactly what I want to be doing. And now I've been like, I deliver trainings, I do interviews, I've been on massive like webinars and podcasts and causing this difference in the planet, as are you. And I just go, this is what I want to be doing. And I've got a bit of a background in TV. Like I did some TV presenter training and I've created my audition show reel, and I wanted to, you know, go that route. And more recently I've said, it's not the route for me. And in fact, I've had to kind of un-F myself because I was so, like, I get on camera and I'm like, hi. And I was like, ugh, like, get rid of this from my speaking. And I would just switch into like, I'm going to be on this travel show and show you all around. And I was like, this is just like vomit to me. It just felt icky and out of integrity. Like, I don't want to be somebody else on camera. Like, I just want to be myself. And so I'm so passionate now about combining my love and complete fear. And this is where I was heading with this, about how you said people are like an overnight success in our minds. That I wanted to combine that love I have of wanting to impact people and be in front of people, and that complete dread and fear I have of it at the same time, where I literally want the ground to open up and swallow me. Like, I have like been known to have a shot of vodka or tequila before walking onto a stage, because I'm just like, I have to do something to spruik some self-expression or personality into me, because I'm going to die the second I get up there and I'm going to forget everything. But one of my biggest things, and this is like my absolute motto to live by for everything, is, you know, there's that book, I'm sure it's a book, and it's called Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway. Because I honestly believe that there is like zero growth without that kind of, that clench or that fear of like stepping into that. Like, if you take on those types of things where you go like, and then you actually do it, when it's done, the experience for you is life altering. Like, it's life altering, and you know yourself as someone completely different. And then you can create anything from that space, because you went, oh my God, I didn't die. And I actually felt like great about that. And yeah, it's such a cool thing when you start to step into that fear.
It is, like you said, life altering. Even like I know one of my examples is terrified of having a child. Like, I was like, no, it was no discussion. We're not having it. There was so much fear about repeating the same mistakes as my parents.
Yeah.
And then, well, I worked with a counselor, worked through it. Okay. My husband can't believe the rapid turnaround. The counsellor said, well, let's talk about it. And I told her to F off. And then I watched this movie, and it's Doctor Strange, and Doctor Strange was on the balcony with his mentor, and the mentor turned around and said, you don't get it. Life is not about you. And it hit me in the heart. I was like, oh my God, life is not about me. And then it went from 2 years to like 6 months, and then we were pregnant. Yeah. And I was terrified, absolutely terrified. But you know what? It's like life doesn't give you what you want, it gives you what you need. My son every day heals all the fractures of my relationship with my family and myself, and more importantly, and it was about embracing that fear. And I have fun, excitement, joy, love. I have the whole array of emotions, and I am feeling them now because I faced that fear. Do you know? And that's what you're saying. And even this online community that we're a part of, I was terrified to jump in. I was like, it was nothing I'd ever heard of. I didn't know what to do. And I kept like going, well, what's the fear? Okay. And I jumped in, and it has been the most life-changing moment of my entire life. Like, this is an example of it. I had this vision to create this, and I didn't know how to go about it. I just knew I didn't want any women to feel like I did after I had my son. And then I put it out there, and everybody stood behind, like you, Willow, everybody else in the community, like, stands behind you and one embraces you for who you are, authentically who you are. And they hold you in that space where the fear dissipates and you're capable of doing anything.
It's so cool. Like, it's just so cool. And I just really agree from that support element. And I think you were touching on like having a kid. I always kind of wanted to have a kid, but I was so petrified of childbirth. Thanks women of times before us for like making us petrified of this. But and you know, and I'll just touch on it briefly, but for me, my first son was Frank Breach, which means his head was up here and his feet were up here, so it's kind of sat in there like that, and he never turned around. And we tried some things to make him turn around, and he didn't, so he ended up in a planned cesarean. And by the time I got to my second son, I had this option. He turned around, he'd engage, and I was like, right, it's time to book our cesarean, because, you know, most doctors will suggest that if you've had a cesarean first time, it's safer to have a cesarean the second time, because you can have ruptures on the scar and all sorts of things can happen. And I was like, oh, get that booked in. And then my partner said, well, hang on a minute. And I was like, he goes, can we talk about this? Because I would really like you to have a natural childbirth. And I was like, you can imagine my
what if they the same?
You can imagine my natural first reaction was like, you don't get to have a say in what I do with my body. And then, you know, and then I was like, I'm going to hear it out here. He's like, no, you just need to remember that my entire life I have dreamed of having children, and I have dreamed of this moment in the birthing room with my beautiful partner and helping her through that moment and birthing out. And I was just like, boo! And I was like, oh my God, like the world is literally calling for me to take on my fear. Like, I was like, the pain is going to be so bad that I would just never have children. Like, I was literally willing to give away having children because of what that 12 hours might entail. That's how, you know, petrified I was of giving birth, that I was like, I would just never have children. And when he delivered that little moment to me, I was like, holy crap, like I actually have to do this. And, you know, and look, and he's like, look, it's your choice either way, but I want you to know that that was always my vision too, and what I've always wanted as a dad. And I was like, oh crap. So I was like, all right, we're doing this. Oh man. And it was harrowing and horrific, and everything I had thought it was going to be, it was the total opposite of, but it came with its like crazy level and share of challenges. I'm sure I'll chat about it one day. And it was the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. And if you ask me if I want to ever do that again, probably not, ever. And neither a cesarean or a natural birth is easy or pleasant, I don't think, for most. But what I did know was that next morning when it had been 12 hours and my little man was laying there next to me, and I looked down at him, and I just loved him, but I looked at my partner and I was like, I can't believe I did that. And he was like, you were incredible. And I was like, no, you don't get it. I cannot. I did that. And I literally lay there for like an hour going, well, and then I passed out. And I was just like, I can't believe I did that. Because for 35, for whatever years it was leading up to that, I had feared and dreaded that moment to the point of it will never happen. I will never do that. I had made up that decision. I'm never going to embrace that fear. I'm never taking that on. And then I did it and was like, holy, I've literally been unstoppable since, because I was like, if I can do that and I can shift a view from 34 years that I'd had, then anything is possible, like freaking anything. Yeah.
And what I love about it too is you don't realize until you have a child, you become fearless in doing the things that you were too afraid to do. Like I can like give examples. It's that like I always struggle with spiders. But do you get what I'm saying? Like they make you like you can embrace anything. Like if you're scared of spiders and your child is scared of spiders, you embrace that.
I have to deal with the spider.
But you have no choice but to, because you want to be the model. Like for me, like it was about, well, I want to model to me, like even me doing this now, is anything and everything is possible. And the only way, I can't say to my son, your dreams are possible unless I show him that I can create my own dream. Like you cannot, and it's always that, it comes down to that metaphor, monkey see, monkey do. It's not monkey say, it's always. And I can even tell you an example, like I was like, don't throw things, and I saw me throwing things, and my husband and my son copies me. Do you get what I mean? It's just
don't, and you smack their hand and say, don't hit the dog, and you're like, oh, I just kind of it doesn't really make a lot of sense, does it?
That's right, absolutely. But it's really the children make. As a woman too, you see how strong and resilient your body is, like to carry that child for 9 months, and then if you're able to breastfeed afterwards, you know, that child is dependent on you. You're the source of life. Yeah.
I honestly just take every day taking myself on. Like if there's something I can take on about myself today that doesn't work, or that I want to experience, or that I want to try, like, or I think, oh, I really want to talk to that person or reach out and get this one thing or whatever. Whereas I used to kind of ponder it or think about it, or shouldn't I now just go like, I'll just call that person and just do that thing. Or you said, I'm interested in this, who will support me and help me create? And I was like, done, I'm in. Like, and I was like, you know what I mean? Like anything, like I've reached out to a couple of big people that I want to work with as mentors, or about, you know, getting on stage. And someone said to me, will you speak on stage next year at this thing? And I was like, done. And then I was like, oh, there's like not even a moment's hesitation. It's a little bit like this thing that I read earlier this year. I think it's called the 5-second rule.
Yeah.
Right. And I've started just going, like, it talks about how you have approximately 5 seconds to take an action to deal with the thing that you want to do before your brain talks you out of it. And that, so the moment, like, let's say if you wanted to approach a hunky man at a bar and you think, oh, he's really nice, I'm like, let's just talk random, right? But let's just say that you wanted to approach this person and talk with them, and you, before your brain starts to go, don't do that, it's a bad idea, you've been rejected before, he'll never like you, she'll never want to talk to you, you literally should go like, oh, I really would like to go talk to that person, and you should go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, I'm going, and you're just walking into it and taking that action, because anything after that, all those doubts and all those thoughts will just creep in and just wipe you out of the game. So that's just what I do now. I go, oh, should we go do that thing? Great, I'll just do it. We're going to do this trip next year? Great, let's just book that and just take one action consistent with your goal. And then the rest will just flow on from there, because you've already started and taken the action. So
big thing. And I want to tell people, you have to count down. Don't count up. Because if you count up, like you can 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, you just keep
7, 8. Ready or not, I'm never coming.
That's it. You've got to go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and just
Blast
go
off.
into it.
Blast off.
Blast off. And she got that idea. She changed her whole life by watching a rocket ship taking off, and she was in a really bad state in her life.
Robbins, I think it's Mel Robbins is the author of that book. For anyone watching that wants to check it out, I just downloaded it in like I think you can do in audio books now. You can get like a shorthand version. It's like having the cliff notes of a book. For someone like me with such limited time trying to organize online business, traditional business, kids, relationships, travel, like all of the stuff that I want to have in my life, I don't really have a lot of time, especially with a 2-year-old. Who ever gets the time to read a book? I just download now the Cliff Note versions, and it's like a 30-minute audio book, and I can just have it while I'm cooking dinner or something. And it's just a really simple way to fit training and ongoing development and learning for you into your day. It might be in the car, like where I live, it's like no more than 5 minutes anyway, so I never bother with the car. By the time I've just gotten into a thought process, it's gone again because I've already arrived. But cooking or showering, get that volume on loud.
And I love it. You've delegated somebody else to do the reading for you. You know, like there you go. Like that's what effective. Absolutely, and that's what people got to understand too. With what happens with time management, people successful people know how. Like people millionaires know how valuable time is. Time is our most valuable commodity, and they will outsource anybody to do anything so that they can buy back their time. And if you can do it. Absolutely. And if you can do that, like delegate to other people, or even in your own home, if you've got kids, delegate them jobs, like to do things. You don't have to do it all.
Tons of jobs. I love it. Yeah. Put them to work.
That's how you teach them work ethics. Like I'm a big, like my 22-month-old is so excited. Well, my 22-month-old is so excited to do jobs. You know, he's at that age. Like he's like wanting to copy. Mum goes to the bin. He puts things in the bin. He wants to vacuum.
God. I'm always like, check the bin before you put the bin out, because I find like forks and tins of tuna, like everything in there that I want to keep. Same goes for the toilet. I've got like the bathroom on lockdown because like toothbrush goes in, everything goes in. so helpful.
Very, very well. Well, I think we're running out of time. So, Willow, what I want to do is, if people want to get hold of you, how do they go about doing it?
Oh, you find us online. I think at the moment, like, I mean, you know, one of the things that that I do is just work with people in overcoming areas where they're stopped, and obviously helping them to facilitate the life of their dreams and where they want to be heading. But I'm guessing any of my friends or your friends that are watching either of us in our pages right now or on our pages, so you can send us a message through Facebook or anything like that. But yeah, I'm available.
I'm going to ask you a password. I'm going to try to think of this. I hadn't thought about it ahead, but I was thinking, could you give 3 tips could be to men, women, whatever, that they could do today to make their lives easier?
Yes. What are they? Hang on a minute.
I put you on the spot.
I'm just trying to think of the 3 things that I do to make my life easier. Look, it's like one of the things is always around multitasking. So a lot of like with the online business that we do, one of the things that I love the most is the community and the backing. Often I'll be on calls, or let's say you like listening to podcasts, or you're in part of webinars and things like that. I play them in the kitchen and the kids can watch with me. So I don't have to be like, I have to do the kids and then I have to do this and then I have to do that. I try to involve things all together. You know, like my son, he always laughs because he goes, such and such is on again, because that person, you know, always drops an occasional like adult word, and I go like, I'm like, I've got the kids. So we have this thing now where we go, that's an adult word, and we don't say that. But I recommend getting like one of those JBL like Bluetooth, I don't know, like a speakery thing, and just playing your podcast or your webinar or whatever it is through that whilst you're cooking dinner or something like that. So the kids are playing, you're cooking dinner, and you're listening to everything like that. I also recommend outsourcing the stuff that's taking a ton of your time. And this is not just for rich people. Like I always had this view that you had to be rich to have like a house cleaner or a nanny or things like this. But I started to look at what is worth my time and what is worth the money that I spend on it, because self-love and that self-care is so super important that, you know, the amount of things that I could spend doing rather than like scrubbing some windows or a floor or something like that, if you could have someone come around once a month for $50, like you could go to McDonald's tomorrow and waste $30 in one swipe of a drive-through, or that's an hour of having a house cleaner. So we just go like, what could you look at that's not a necessity, and maybe take out the McDonald's and buy a house cleaner for an hour or two just to come through and help you get through some laundry or help you do some of those jobs, such that you could proactively be using your time for something that would either enrich your soul, give you some downtime or self-care, or make yourself some money. Like I started to look at an hour of cleaning bathrooms or an hour of doing online work or work in my business. And I was like, I make a ton more money spending an hour doing that than I would have worried about spending an hour on a cleaner. And I was like, oh, absolutely. So I started to have a day or two a week where I get a nanny in, a babysitter, a nanny in to come and look after my child, such that I can have uninterrupted time in my office and things like that. So I think it's just around letting go of control and delegating things out, finding ways to make your life easier, like truly making your life easier. Like stop doing everything for everyone and all the jobs and all the tasks. You'll just end up burnt out and unfulfilled in life. So that's about it. I don't know if I did three or if I...
That's okay. But I'm going to add the third one, date night. You do date night now. Like,
Yes.
Like how important. I bet it's structured everything in a crazy way, in a great way for the two of you. Yeah, making sure you have that time for date night.
I would like to say that it's so structured and I've got it all together. Actually, the last 2 weeks, well, we're into the second week where I actually did this video, and I was like, you know what, I'm bloody going to do it, because my relationship always just comes last. It's not like we don't spend quality time together or love each other or anything like that, but we don't spend committed like couple time together like what we did before we had kids. So I found this lovely nana, and she's coming to my house once a week to look after the kids. You can find someone for $12 an hour to come once a fortnight for like an hour or two to come and look after your kids, such that you could go on a date and, you know, funds might be tight or whatever, and you could literally, after my partner running home, you could literally go sit out under the stars with a picnic and have a free date. We this week, because I wasn't able to get the sitter, I went to Kmart and bought 2 $5 yoga mats, and I'm getting all the candles all set up, and we're going to do like a body balance or yoga class on YouTube on the telly. I'll probably have wine at the same time, but I was just like, you know what, because he always says like he wants to come and do a yoga class with me, and the schedule doesn't fit his work hours, and then we've got to pay people to come look after the kids and and my little one can't go to creche because of his illness. And I was like, I'm going to bring the yoga class for him. And I've literally like just setting it up so you can do cool things. We, you know, last week's date night, we just went out and helped a friend with a photo shoot. And we were like 2 of the models in a bar. We had to, you know, be in a bar and make it look like this bar was a happening place. And there was a whole bunch of us, but we got a few free drinks and we were at the bar, and I got to help out a friend and dress up and feel nice about myself. And we ended up going out afterwards because we were like, you know what? We're out, we've had a few drinks, like let's enjoy the moment. So you can do stuff that's really thinking outside the square just to give a little bit back to your relationship. So it's so important.
I'm going to utilize it and use the back seat of a car. So don't have any intimate relationships. My husband
you have to go there.
Me. I have to go there. I'm so kind of like, I was like, we talk about the other day, but maybe a babysitter and we'll find like we're teenagers again. Yeah, have a little bit of fun.
I no comment.
Yeah, you can say that. I'm out there. You can just go, go. Well, Willow, thank you so much for your time today. You are a superstar.
Oh.
I really, really do appreciate it. And like I said, I really want to thank you. You are one of the reasons why this is possible. You believed in me from the moment, and it's just liberating to have other people and that's what we talk about here. Our community is really supportive of enabling everybody to have a vision.
You are just such a natural conversationalist. It is an ideal pathway for you to be in interviewing people, and I could hear it when you started, and I've watched it over a number of weeks, and I just think keep going, because you know, like Oprah, Ellen, everyone started just interviewing one person, and they didn't start at the top. There's no one's an overnight, no one's an
I love
overnight
it. Exactly.
success. There's 20, 30, 40 years, except social media wasn't around, so you never saw their backstory. But you just watch how incredible for you in 10 years' time that people can scroll back and see us talking about getting your nookie in the back seat.
And I'll still be talking about it on such a feed. My husband's always like going, "Oh my God, that's my wife. What's she
I
doing? She's
love
telling
it.
everybody." Yeah, he loves it secretly. Secretly, he loves it.
All
All
right.
right, Willow. Will you guys give kisses to those beautiful boys? And I
I
know
will
I'll
do.
talk to you soon. All right,
All
and thank you
right.
for
See
watching,
you.
everybody. Bye.
Thanks, guys.